At 11:07 p.m., a man in a navy windbreaker stamped HOA compliance police onto my windshield with a suction cup badge. He then pulled out a box cutter and slid the blade deliberately into the rear tire of my Porsche 911 Turbo. The hiss of escaping air cut through the silence. He was completely unaware that I'd been watching from the shadows of my carport for the past 10 minutes. When I stepped forward into the dim light and spoke, my voice was calm. "Federal agent, hands where I can see them, step away from the vehicle." The lookout bolted immediately. The one with the box cutter lunged at me, the blade catching my forearm. That's when my training took over. I redirected his momentum, swept his legs, and took him down hard to the pavement. When he twisted violently, trying to reach for the dropped blade, his arm went the wrong way with a clean, ugly snap. I secured the handcuffs and pulled out my phone to call the local police. Across the street, Tricia Beaumont, HOA president, appeared on her front porch in a silk bathrobe, clutching her pearls. She announced loudly, "This is an HOA enforcement action. You have no right to interfere. They don't carry sirens. Also, I'm a deputy United States Marshal currently on vacation, and this fake cop just made the biggest mistake of his life. My name is Marcus Hale. After 15 years of tracking fugitives, I've learned that the best defense is staying under the radar. I keep it low, I mow straight trim hedges, and keep my conversations minimal. I bought my place in Oak Haven Bluffs 3 years ago. The local HOA is led by Tricia Beaumont, who weaponizes font sizes and red text. She's been after me since I politely but firmly denied her request to use my driveway for guest parking during the annual summer barbecue. Community spirit, she cooed. Private property, I replied flatly. The citations began immediately, each more absurd than the last. Reflective driveway surface deemed unacceptable. Sports car lowers traditional family values. Garage door usage hours restricted to 6 a.m. through 8 p.m., a rule that didn't exist in the actual bylaws. She introduced her HOA security, 2 guys in navy windbreakers with official-looking patches, carrying clipboards and walkie-talkies that played NOAA weather reports. They ticketed my mailbox for being insufficiently beige. I caught them measuring the distance between my garbage cans and the curb with a tape measure. I ignored the elaborate cosplay but documented everything with photos and timestamps. A final warning letter arrived, citing me for unauthorized performance vehicle and threatening impound. The same day, a neighbor texted me a ring clip showing one of Tricia's officers measuring my tires. I knew things were escalating beyond petty harassment. I set up a high-definition security camera with night vision in my carport and waited. The local officers arrived within 4 minutes. I handed over my credentials and the memory card for my security camera, showing the complete sequence, the tire slashing captured in perfect clarity, the lunge with a weapon, and the defensive takedown frame by frame. The perp's wallet identified him as Derek Polson, with a laminated card reading Beaumont Community Safety, Director. No state license, no legal authority whatsoever. Tricia tried to file a formal complaint against me for assaulting a compliance officer. Sergeant Morrison looked at her with contempt. "Ma'am, impersonating a law enforcement officer is a Class D felony in the state. And also homeowner associations are not law enforcement agencies under any interpretation of state or federal law." He asked Tricia about the fake uniforms and fraudulent tickets. She declared they were a quasi-municipal entity with enforcement powers granted by the community charter. The sergeant shook his head slowly. "No ma'am, you're a neighborhood social club with a newsletter and absolutely zero law enforcement authority." The county prosecutor loved every frame of the footage. The box cutter, under state statute, counted as a deadly weapon. Derek Polson got hit with felony criminal mischief, $3,200 damage, impersonating a peace officer, up to 4 years, conspiracy to commit property damage, and assault with a deadly weapon. His partner got conspiracy and impersonation charges. Tricia Beaumont collected the crown jewel of consequences: solicitation to commit vandalism, false representation of authority, operating an unlicensed security service, and conspiracy to commit criminal mischief. The preliminary hearing happened 3 weeks later. The prosecutor played the security footage. Then came the real bombshell: surveillance footage from inside the HOA clubhouse, provided by a fed-up board member. The judge watched in complete silence as Tricia coached both men, pointing at printed photos of my Porsche taped to a whiteboard. Her voice was crystal clear: Project Beige Blitz. If he won't comply voluntarily, we make compliance unavoidable. We target the symbol of his defiance. The judge paused the playback on the exact frame showing my rear tire deflating. The entire courtroom, packed with curious neighbors and media, listened to the evidence. Sentencing came 6 weeks later. Judge Patricia Holloway didn't mince words. Derek Polson, 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, full restitution, $3,200, and mandatory anger management. Trisha Beaumont, 2 years probation, 180 hours of community service to be performed specifically at the county police station under the supervision of actual law enforcement officers. A personal fine of $15,000. A permanent no-contact order prohibiting her from coming within 500 feet of my property. The judge formally recommended her immediate removal from the HOA board. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. That evening, the HOA held an emergency meeting. The board voted 6-1 to remove Trisha from her position as president, effective immediately. Her husband, Donald, quickly recused himself when the HOA attorney pointed out the massive liability. Trisha stood up abruptly and walked out of the community center without a single word. Her reign of petty tyranny ended with a soft click of a door closing and the collective sigh of relief from 30 homeowners.